Welcome to the Glamping Guy podcast, episode 9.
We need supportive retreats. We need time alone in nature. We need glamping.
Hey, I'm Chris Jube, the Glamping Guy, and I'm thrilled about today's guest, K Kay Moody, one of my first ever students to join the podcast. K Kay is a physician by trade and a passionate glamping host with an inspiring story of how she transitioned from burnout in the medical field to founding Glacier Rock Wellness Ranch, a glamping sanctuary nestled near Mount Rainier in Washington. In this episode, we dive into her fascinating stories, starting with a Facebook community for physicians that grew into tens of thousands of members, to the challenges she faced in financing and developing her glamping site. K Kay also shares valuable insights into making outdoor hospitality profitable without compromising wellness and the healing power of nature. We cover everything from how she creatively raised capital with membership programs to the trials she faced with unreliable contractors and a devastating barn fire. This episode is packed with lessons about resilience, community, and the beauty of slow, organic growth in the glamping industry. You're going to love hearing K Kay's passion for hospitality and how she balances it all, family, wellness, and business with grace. Stick around to the end, where K Kay discusses her dreams of expanding Glacier Rock Ranch through partnerships and invites listeners, could be you, to connect if they share her vision. Without further ado, here's K Kay Moody, owner and operator of Glacier Rock Ranch. Well, hello, K Kay Moody.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. Yeah, you are my first student to actually be on the Glamping Guy podcast.
No way.
You are.
Great. I feel so honored.
I think it's like I don't really know what number you're going to end up being, but it's that's what I there's actually and just so the listeners know, last year when I was getting my classes going, I had 14 students that were actually, legit paying students, and then they of those 14, two of them had glamping operations going. The third one actually launched their glamping operation during class.
Oh, that's great.
And so you're one of them, and I hope to have all of them on.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
It's a great honor. Thank you for having me on your podcast.
Well, so I feel like I know you better than I know my other podcast guys. You were at the Glamping show just a few weeks ago, and you're from Washington. You're in Tennessee now, but so my guests need to get to know who K Kay Moody is.
Okay.
So how about you give your explanation of who you are and what you got going in glamping?
I don't know. Who am I? I guess I could start with the glamping part instead, like how I got into glamping. It was very much a labor of love. I'm a physician by training, and I found that there was a lot of sort of burnout and moral injury in the field of medicine, which it probably is in a lot of fields like teaching and firefighters and police officers and probably every profession. It's just that that's the profession that I'm in, and so I started noticing that there was a need. And so back in residency, I think it was probably like 2012 or something, I started a Facebook group. It's kind of when Facebook groups first came out. I started a Facebook group to kind of bring people together so that we could commiserate. Just to kind of support each other. There were people that I met at conferences that sort of filled my soul, and I didn't want to just see them once a year. I wanted to have that connection with them year round to try to be able to, just share the struggles and the joys of practicing what we do. And so I put this group together. I thought there'd be about 10 of us, and it grew and grew and grew and grew. Now there's like 25,000 on this group. And so as it grew and as people started to express to me how meaningful it was to be able to find each other, I decided that we needed a physical place. And so that's how my glamping started, as this labor of love to purchase a physical space where we could all gather And of course, nature was at the top of the list. And at the time, I lived in Tennessee here.
Hmm. Oh, is
And
that the place, that like the background and the
yeah,
fireplace and everything? Oh,
this is
wow.
my house. This is my
Oh.
home. Yeah, in
And
Tennessee.
that was the original place that you bought for the physician group
No, no, no.
together?
This is my original home.
Oh, okay.
I yeah, I this is my home in Tennessee.
Okay.
Um, but I started looking around this area. This is East Tennessee, and so I was looking all in the mountains of North Carolina, and I was looking for waterfalls and streams and mountains and nature and just a quiet place where we could come together and make a bonfire and just talk without any, you can only say so much on social media, right? Because there's all the trolls and the haters, and they all want to jump in
It's
and
just brief. It's brief. The
yeah,
brief comments too. That you're just helping
right.
each other out, but it might be very good and wholesome, but
Yeah.
it's not very deep.
Yeah, well, and exactly. It's very little snippets of things, and there's so much that we need face to face. There's so much that we can help each other when we're together. That
Right.
human contact. Social media is great. It connects us, but it doesn't do the whole thing. There's that person to person connection. And I just felt that so strongly that I said, I need to extend this. The the doc group that I had been going on for years and years, but I just felt this need to take it to the next level. So I started searching all around North Carolina, all around Tennessee, Georgia, North Georgia, the Blue Ridge Mountains, all around there. And I found some beautiful places. But my son was a hiker. He'd been in Nepal and Norway and all these places. And he's like, you've got to go to the Pacific Northwest. You've just got to, before you decide, you've at least got to go west and look around. And so, and he loved Colorado too. He lived in Colorado for a while. And so I did. And we took we took a week in July, which is the best time to go to the Pacific Northwest. And we hiked the touristy section of Mount Rainier National Park, and we fell in love with it. And so we really started looking around in that area for a place where
Mhm.
we could take this group to the next level. And we found what is now Glacier Rock Wellness Ranch. And it initially started as just a place where my colleagues could come together. But after a couple of years, I found that I could only work so many extra shifts to support this place.
Yeah.
And that I had to find a way that it could support itself. And so that's when I started kind of like exploring the, Airbnb kind of things. And I already had the glamping huts and lots of camping spaces. And every year I got a shower barn from Conestoga Wagons. You've seen them at the
Yep.
glamping conference.
Mhm.
And I had a local guy just work with me and design these glamping huts that we built that are still there. We did that, I think, in 2019. So I purchased the place in 2018, and
Okay.
people started coming and camping, and then every summer, every year, I would just kind of add a little bit, another layer. So now we have a shower barn with hot showers so they can camp but still have a flushing toilet and wash their hands and take a hot shower.
That's
And then
important.
it is. Well, that's the thing. Like it's camping is great, but we kind of want to be clean too, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we did that, and then the next year we added what I call the Love Shack, and I had a local guy also design this little three-sided shack that overlooks the creek, and we put a hot tub in there. Um,
Cool.
so we call
Is
that
that in 2019? Is that when you did the Love Shack?
the Love Shack. I think I did. Let me see. Let me look at my little thing
Well,
here.
here, let's try to put a time because you explain a lot. That's really
Yeah.
cool, and I identify with a lot of it. Like
Yeah.
you had your group of people. I had a business too that I had people very important to me that I
Yeah.
wanted to provide a space for and
Right.
guests to come over, and then your son was involved with
Mhm.
and I have my kids involved too, and
Mhm. Mhm.
it's really and you have a genuine heart to help people in this
Yeah.
particular community. So that
Yeah.
physician group is still a group, and that's still an active
Mhm.
group, right? So you're
It
still
is.
kind of moderating and people helping
Yeah.
each other out, new people coming on and stuff. Um,
Yeah.
and that's really, I resonate with that a lot. I bet you a lot of the listeners resonate too. But
Yeah.
in 2012 is when you started that Facebook group. You purchased the property in 2018. When did you really get the
Mhm.
bug to find a piece of property? Because you're in Tennessee doing this Facebook group. But when was that?
Yeah.
Okay, I need to find a property for this.
It was, so we flew to look at Glacier Rock the first time in 2016, but I had already been at least a year searching for properties in the East Tennessee, North Carolina, North Georgia area. So
So about
probably
2 years
around,
search.
yeah, maybe about 2014 is when I started searching for the location.
Okay.
And
Okay.
then 2016 was the first time I flew to Washington and looked at Glacier Rock. It was for sale at the time.
Oh, okay. It was
We
just a
met,
ranch, or was it
it was
actually
a
a?
ranch.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay.
75-acre ranch on Mount Rainier, right outside of Mount Rainier, right on the Cowlitz River. It's got about 2,800 feet of Cowlitz River, and then a creek that runs. One border is the creek that runs into the river, and then the other border is the river itself. And so it's kind of surrounded by nice sounds of water. But yeah, but that was 2016. I made an offer, but the rancher wasn't really quite ready to sell it. His wife wanted him to sell it, but he kind of didn't want to. And so he rejected most offers at the time. And so a couple of years later, when we finally moved out there, I thought I was going to have to start the search all over again. I did type in that address because that's the one that I really wanted.
Mhm.
And they had put it back on the market. I think his wife had finally convinced him that, we need to.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so he'd lived there his whole life. And so it was kind of wonderful. We had some time together, and I promised him that it would kind of continue his vibe
His
of
heart was in it,
his
and
heart. That was his home.
yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah.
and I think he was worried that someone would just like build a bunch of condos or, turn it into some development that would break his heart. And I was like,
Uh,
no, 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 no. We want to keep this natural and beautiful, and we want people to come here and just feel the nature. And he was
yeah.
like, if I
So he
have to
felt good
sell
about
it,
selling it to
he
K Kay
did.
Moody.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so, and he's always has an open invitation to come and sit by the river and still be a
Cool.
part of this beautiful. I feel like he said this is a spiritual place, and I have to agree. It's just so the nature of it is just amazing.
Time for a glamping glamercial. Glamping is the sexiest asset class in real estate, blowing traditional real estate out of the water. If you are a landowner or a potential landowner or an investor who wants to get into the world of glamping, I invite you to my 4-video course, Easy Entry to a Glamping Business. I'm Chris Jube, the Glamping Guy. You may have seen my videos online. And I attest that while traditional real estate investing boasts maybe 10 or 20% returns, glamping typically returns 50%. In my 5 years of hosting a modest glamping operation, I have grown 100 times my first year's earnings. I will show you how you can do the same. So go to glampingguy.com/easy and get registered today to learn easy entry to a glamping business. Wow, wow. So in 2018, did you actually purchase it, or was there some sort of
Mhm.
rate of financing or something? So you,
Yeah, so 2018 is when I purchased it. But since I'd been talking about it on our Facebook group as this joint effort for years, 2 or 3 years at least, I'd been talking about and showing everyone my search, like, oh, look at this place in North Georgia. Oh, look at this place in North Carolina. Look how pretty. Look at this one. And I would do polls and like, what do you guys think? Do you like this one better? Do you like this one better? Where are you more likely to go? And
hmm,
so it was kind of like this group effort for
okay.
years. And so everyone was emotionally invested in this place happening, right? So when it finally happened, what I did was right before I signed the papers, I set it up where they could join as members, almost like you would join a gym, right? You
Hmm,
don't
okay.
own the place. It's not ownership. It's not investment. It's like join as a member.
Okay.
And so I set it up where there was an initial fee and then there was a monthly fee because I thought, if I'm going to do this, I'm not independently wealthy. I have to work for everything. And so, how can I make this happen for this group, but not go bankrupt? And
Okay, so is this the first time you're monetizing the group, like the
yes,
physicians group? Okay, so you're taking that
yeah,
business step of, okay, I got to figure out some way to earn revenue here. So you set up a membership for the physicians group, or
not
explain
for
how
the
you did that.
group. No, and I don't feel like I monetized the group. The group is still not monetized. What I did do is say, okay, guys, this physical space that we've all been talking about wanting, I cannot do this alone. If you guys want this to happen, I will make it happen and I'll take all the risk of signing my name on the dotted line for this mortgage forever and ever, and the insurance and the
Mhm.
taxes and the whole running of it. But I can't do this alone. So if you want this to happen, here's a membership for the space, not for the group. The group is always free. It's a social group. It's a Facebook group. It's
But
not
the
monetized.
venue, the actual camp that
The-
you were purchasing,
right.
they bought like shares. You might look at
Not
it as.
shares, not an investment at all. I know it's really kind of hard to understand because I'd never seen anyone do this, and I was like, I don't know, let's just figure this out in a way that I can purchase this and people
Okay.
can help me purchase this. So the way I set it up was they pay an initial membership to join. Say, for example, if you walk into a gym and they say, okay, it's going to be $300 initial fee, or a country club, or whatever. Like, I like the gym sort of thing because I've done this before. So you go in and they say, okay, $300 down and such amount per month. I said, okay, if we want to make this happen, we have to do this as a group because I can't do it alone. And so $300 to join as a member so that you can access the ranch, and then set it up where you pay $10 per month to stay a member.
Okay.
And the $10 a month, just minimal, to because I knew there was going to be electric
How many
fees.
people did
And
you get? How much revenue
well,
capital did you bring?
initially we had about 400 people sign up
Wow, that's great.
because everybody was so excited about it because they'd been talking about it for years. And even before I started talking about it, there was this trust because I'd had this group since probably 2012. And so it was
Mhm.
like we were all friends already.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I promised them, like,
You had
listen,
your tribe built. You had
yeah.
they were ready to buy.
Right. So
Wow.
they trusted me, and that was an important part. And for me, maintaining that trust was the most important part. And I said to everyone, listen, if something happens and this offer doesn't go through, and I don't generate enough from you guys to have the down payment, if this doesn't happen, it is 100% fully refundable. I'm not going to keep
Okay.
anybody's money.
Yeah.
There is no risk to you guys. This is a membership to the ranch. If the ranch doesn't happen, you get 100% of your money back.
And what
This
were
is
the
not.
benefits? So I suppose you listed benefits
Mhm,
of
yeah.
membership. What were they?
Yeah, so if they did the basic amount, it was um 24/7 access to the ranch.
Okay.
They could come with their family, camp anytime, just be there. It was basically like a public park that never closes, but it's not publicly funded. It's
Okay.
private with only 400 members, and they were all your colleagues.
And are they still
And
members today?
many
They can
of them
show up.
still are,
Yeah.
not all of them. Because I don't do a good job of like promoting, you know what I mean?
But
I
the
said,
three hundred
listen,
dollars was like your capital fundraiser, and
yes.
you got $400. That's like $12,000 that you got. That probably helps with the down payment, and then you had $10 a month that keeps their membership going. And I
Mhm.
suppose did everyone show up at once? You had a big party, or did they? How did
No,
that look like?
no, that's the big problem in my opinion, is not everybody's showing up, and I want people to show up. So most people joined because they wanted to support the cause, because they recognize that all of their colleagues, including themselves, need
Mhm.
that space, and they wanted to support each other. So many people have never even gone. There are people who even I've worked with at the hospital that joined as members that have still never been there. And it's
Okay.
only 2 hours from their house and they still haven't been there yet. But they
Were they
just,
like, were they like, I mean, someone from the East Coast, do they actually sign up
oh,
and
yeah,
do it?
yeah,
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 yeah.
all over the
Just
country.
yeah, just
Yeah, yeah, all over the
getting there
country.
would be a difficult thing. I could see signing up for something that was so. This is a wellness
Yeah.
camp or a 75 acres. People could go, and that's the whole idea is that you are
Hmm.
a physician or in the
Hmm.
physician related field,
Hmm.
and and you are going with like-minded people to take
Hmm.
care of yourself for once because you're giving
Hmm.
so much to other people, and this is a place to go to recoup, regenerate, whatever, and
Yeah.
be well. So.
Yeah, and you can meet up with your colleagues, maybe you trained with them in Philadelphia and you want to have a reunion, or just come with your kids, come with your dog. It's just a place, how glamping is so wonderful in so many ways. It's just a
Mhm.
place to either come together with your family or come together with your colleagues, or some people just go by themselves. I go out there by myself all the
Mhm.
time. And it's glorious not to speak to anyone for 48 hours and just
Yeah,
be
yeah, yeah.
quiet and just sit by
Okay.
the river. It's wonderful. And
Well, sorry that
so,
it took a while. I had to kind of get my brain around the finances of that because there's a lot of people who want to get into glamping and how to figure out how to make that initial capital launch
well,
is
right. And
very.
I did different levels. And so you did the math and it was a little bit lower than what I actually was able to collect. I did different levels because there were people who said, this has to happen. This has to happen. We want this to happen. This is important for this to happen. And so there were many colleagues who gave more than than just the basic 300. So I did different levels and, like maybe you have a bench named after you or a trail named after you or the barn is named after you or whatever, but people didn't care so much about like what the benefits were. Some of my colleagues were as passionate as I was that this needed to happen and
Mhm.
they wanted to contribute in a bigger way. So I made different levels. There was the 300, which most people did, and then there was 1,000 and 2,000 and 3,000 and 5,000 and 10,000. And so,
Oh, okay. So you got some big donors.
yes,
Okay.
and they were just that. They were donors.
Can I ask
Like,
you how much the property costs? 75 acres and by Mount Rainier.
yeah, it was 675.
Oh, that's a good deal.
It was a really good deal.
Okay. And let's get the lay of the land.
Yeah.
So in 2012 or in 2018 when you purchased
Mhm.
it, what was the lay of the land? What did you buy for 675?
Mhm. So there were two houses on the property. There was a farmhouse. I call it the farmhouse and the cottage.
Hmm.
Let me think what else. The pavilion was there already. So sort of a covered, maybe, I don't know, 25 by 40-ish kind of covered pavilion with electricity and water. Um, and one of the larger donors also brought a nice big grill and donated that. We spent 2 days putting it together.
Oh, yeah.
So as far as what was there already, there was a barn, a 16 stall barn, and a 10,000 square foot arena, covered arena, a horse arena. Um, I think that's all that was there when I first got it. And then we added
Okay.
things that would go
Okay.
with the glamping.
Okay. 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 So two houses, a pavilion, a barn, a 10,000 square foot arena, and then you had a tragedy happen. When was that tragedy?
Oh, goodness. Let me see. I made a couple of notes because I was like, okay, what year was that?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah.
I know it's all a blur. So we bought it in 2018. 2019 and 2020 was still just members only. I didn't open it up to Airbnb. And I think around 2021 is when I put it on Airbnb just because I couldn't afford to just do it by myself.
Did you do glamping sites in 2021? Or was it
Um,
or was it the
I
two
in
houses?
2021 is when I added the shower barn and the hot tub and I put it on HipCamp and Airbnb. Um, let's see. Yeah, that was 2021, I think, is when I finally opened it up on Airbnb.
Okay.
But before that, we'd had several retreats, some doctor retreats where people would, there was Docs in the Wild where we did a whole retreat. People came from Connecticut and, all over the place. And
Yeah,
then,
that's not too uncommon. People have a retreat center and they
yeah,
want to get into glamping somehow, some
yeah,
way. And
yeah,
they convert into this event center, and then
yeah,
they put up some accommodations, and then boom, they're a
yeah,
glamping operation.
yeah,
And that sounds
exactly.
like what you did. You in the course of a few years.
Yeah.
Did COVID have anything to do with it? I mean, you started in 2021.
Well, I started putting it on Airbnb in 2021, and it was just because I'd been going for about 3 years, and I was funding it totally with working extra shifts at the hospital. And I started to think, I can't really afford to just work extra shifts for this wellness ranch, because that's paradoxical, because I'm trying to be well as well. If I'm working myself
Right.
to death to support this ranch. And plus I wanted more people to be there. I wanted people to enjoy it more. And so that's in 20, I think 2019 is when I built the glamping huts.
Okay.
So I had the local contractor come and we just kind of designed it ourselves.
How many did
Um,
you build? How many huts did you build?
Two huts. And I
Two
think that
huts.
was in 2019 and we finished them in 2020, I believe. But it wasn't on Airbnb yet. It was still just for the members only. And I just kind of felt like, gosh, we have this amazing place and nobody's coming. The members were still paying, but they weren't coming because they're busy. They're taking care of their patients, they're taking care of their families. And you know how sometimes we sign up for a gym, but we don't go enough. This place needed peopling. It
Yeah.
needed not
So
just
you had
funding.
vacancies, and you're
Yeah, and
thinking that's money out the window that could be
well,
used to fund the operation.
it just, yeah, it needed, I just wanted, my heart was in the sharing of the space. I
Mhm.
wanted people to come and feel what I felt sitting by that river. I wanted that healing to happen. And so that's when I was like, okay, we'll put it on Airbnb and it'll accomplish those two goals. Number one, it'll help my giving heart to be able to give. And it'll also help to pay the electric bill that I'm having
Yeah.
to work extra shifts to do. And then maybe I can sit by the river more frequently if somebody else is, offsetting that cost of running the business.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, so we did that. And then I think 2020 was kind of like quiet as it was for a lot of people. But I feel like the members did start to come a little more in 2020 just because nobody wanted to go
They
to
had
a
time on their hands,
hotel.
probably. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
physicians, I suppose the
Yeah.
physicians were busy,
Yeah.
but there's
Yeah.
still a lot being, told to go home, that kind of thing.
Well, yeah, like I'm in emergency medicine, and so I was working all the time, and a lot of hospitalists were working all the time. But there were some physicians that weren't able to work because clinics were closed, and it just depended on your specialty.
Yeah,
Some
right. Right.
specialties were working more, some specialties were working less, and even dental clinics were closed,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because aerosolizing anyway, so that it kind of affected everybody in a different way. I feel like we're all sort of recovering from the PTSD of, of that
Oh, COVID itself,
a
the
couple.
COVID shutdowns, I should say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, the shutdown. Yeah, because it just, I don't know. I went to work in the beginning not knowing if I was actually going to die from this disease,
Yeah.
because in the beginning we didn't know.
Yeah.
And so here it was really weird in my mid 50s to be doing all of this end of life planning with my family. Like, listen, if I get this, don't put me on a ventilator. I was making these
Mhm.
plans with my family, assuming that I could potentially die from this. And so going in and, doing these intubations on these COVID positive patients, my knees are shaking and
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
needed some wellness. And so
Yeah.
I think that might have pushed me a little bit more to say, okay, this is a dangerous profession. I need to start considering what else can I do to sort of maybe transition. And I'm not getting any younger, and I need to retire eventually. And so it was kind of a reset for me, because also before that I was traveling every month doing wellness talks all over the country, and even outside the country. I was doing some physician wellness talks because I had recognized that burnout and moral injury was happening everywhere. And so I was traveling every month doing these lectures around the country, and COVID stopped that because nobody could fly.
Yeah.
And then, so I spent a lot of time at home with my family, and I spent a lot of time at the wellness ranch by the
Mhm.
river and in nature. And it really reset my life. And it was a real turning point for me to recognize what was really important to me. And I think a lot of people had that time of reflection during COVID.
Yeah.
There's bad things about
I
it, but
did.
there's
That's
good.
when I got
Yeah,
into glamping, and then so it made a huge pivot in life.
yeah,
I find that kind of a theme. You're my 10th guest, and I think most of the first nine
yeah,
really do point to 2019, 2021 as a
yeah,
time when they went, yeah, I really love hospitality, and
yeah.
I'm gonna pivot in life and do this. And that's very interesting that you felt the same way when you had that
Exactly.
property. It's almost, the timeline is almost identical to us. You
Yeah.
were a little bit ahead of the game at 2018.
Hmm.
I draw my line in the sand at 2019,
Hmm.
and it just is, it's
Hmm.
been great.
Yeah.
It's been
Yeah.
wonderful. And
I
now
was
let's talk about
recognizing
the.
the need in
Go ahead.
2018, and then more and more. But then 2020 it was almost like it took what I was doing and gave it a hard pivot. Like, this is no joke.
Yeah.
This is your path now.
Right. Right. Yeah. 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 There's no ignoring it anymore,
Yeah, no,
or
this is
well,
this is for,
getting
here's
busy
your
and forgetting about
shove
it.
you over the cliff. Yeah, like, I'm not kidding now. This is
Yeah,
where you're
that's very
headed.
good.
Yeah,
Now let's talk
totally.
about your wellness, uh, the wellness theme of your, not
Hmm.
only your glamping operation,
Hmm.
but your life.
Hmm.
Honestly,
Hmm.
KK,
Yeah,
that's your shtick. That's your specialty in
it
physician,
is.
is
Yeah,
wellness.
yeah.
How have you cultivated that in your glamping
Hmm.
operation,
Hmm.
and really just kind of like the theme of your life right now in
Hmm.
wellness?
Yeah, it's I guess being in medicine, I started medicine later in life. I went back to med school at 38. And so I had kind of a different perspective than someone who was starting as a young person and just going, "Oh, this is just the way it is." When I got into medicine, I started seeing things that I just didn't feel like were how it should be. Like, this
Wow.
is, yeah, people are treated harshly, like physicians are treated badly, and nurses and healthcare professionals. And there's, sometimes patients are having their worst day, and oftentimes they take it out on the staff and spit on you and punch you. I've I've had all those things. Like,
I
and
have
you're like,
so many parallels with public education that I could go
I'm
on
sure.
about.
Exactly. Right. Right. My mother-in-law's a teacher, and we would sit and tell stories, and they're the same stories
Yeah, this
because
is the
you're
same stories,
dealing.
right? Right.
Yeah.
But
Right.
in a
And
way, you
so,
are a civil servant.
yeah.
You're serving the people,
Yeah.
and that doesn't always go well.
Yeah. No, no, exactly. And you can be in harm's way, like emotional harm's way, physical harm's way. Like, it can be very dangerous to be, you know, I don't know. I could tell you some stories, but I won't. That's not the scope of this. But yeah, this just kind of gave me a hard pivot, and I decided I'm still practicing medicine. I mean, I have to. I've got one kid in college, and another one that's a senior in high school, about to be in college. So I've got to keep working until, at least, but I'm
Mhm.
focusing more and more and more on doing what I can to try to build my glamping operation so that it can be not only a source of wellness for people, which has always been the mission and the goal, but also to help me get some freedom from continued moral injury from the job that I'm doing. And as I approach retirement age, I don't need to be working in an ER when I'm 85, right?
Yeah,
I just
yeah,
don't.
yeah, yeah.
But I can do hospitality forever. I feel like I have this whole career to give now in hospitality. And so I'm learning how to do it, and how to do it right, and how to not just do it as some other thing that I'm doing, but
Mm.
as a way to, as you say, legal, profitable, like, like the
Safe, legal, and profitable.
yeah. There's your things. I got 2 out of 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, safe for sure. I mean, safe should be my number one. But yeah, I just want to continue to serve and to give in real ways
Mhm.
that might not be medicine. And who knows, I may incorporate a little bit of medicine in there, but um the wellness lectures were one thing, but
Do you give that to the people who visit? Do you have some sort of program that people can sign
no,
up for? And
no,
no,
I feel like when it comes to being in nature, it's best that people just
that's
come and
wellness
be in
enough, right?
nature. They don't want to hear my words. I
Don't
don't need
stuff
to
a
tell them
curriculum into
how
that one.
wonderful
Yeah.
this is. I just
Okay.
need to, like, here's the code to the door. Go enjoy, because they don't want to see
Uh,
me.
okay.
But no, but we do some retreats, and I
Mm.
really want more and more retreats to happen. We had one just a month or so ago. I think it was in September. It was the most fun ever. I mean, I've had 4 retreats already, and they're always good. The military physicians come and do wilderness medicine training, and they camp outside. There are like 60 of them, and they're learning how to get each other off the mountain, and they do
Mhm.
things under the trees and by the creek and all these things. And so it's really, really quite wonderful. But I didn't get to participate too much in those because I was always working. And so I would come at the end and chit chat with everybody,
Working your day job.
working my job
Okay.
to support the ranch
Okay.
because I
Okay.
let the military guys just use the property for free. So that was not profitable. But recently we did this women's retreat, and there were only 11, but it was perfect. It was like
Mhm.
a 2-day slumber party. Of course, I have enough beds for 20 people to sleep in, if you count all the glamping tents and the glamping huts and the Airstream and the cottage and the farmhouse and everything. But these were physician women from all around the country. And they're like, well, I want to stay in the farmhouse. I want to stay in the farmhouse. I'm like, okay, guys, well, there's going to be 3 of you to a room if you're in the farmhouse. They're like, I don't care. That'll be fun. And so I wasn't sure how this was going to go, because these are grown-up women. Like, most of us were like in our 50s, right? So grown-up women, not 12-year-old girls going to a slumber party. But you know what? When it happened, it felt like a bunch of 12-year-old girls at a slumber party. We had so much fun. It was all physicians, and there were 2 of them that were psychiatrists. So you can imagine the sharing that sort of got prompted around the
Mhm.
table and all the
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So it was really wonderful. So I want to do more and more retreats, because for me, that is wellness. It's not about someone sitting and listening to me lecture about wellness.
Mhm.
That's old school. That's what we did in the beginning when we were trying to help people understand that wellness needed to be a theme. People needed to address it because it wasn't even being talked about. But we're past that now. We don't need lectures about it anymore. We need supportive retreats. We need time alone in nature. We need glamping. I feel
Yeah.
like this is the new wellness, and we
Mhm.
have to encourage each other to open these locations everywhere.
Mhm.
I just want this to be, I want everyone to do this everywhere. I don't
Well, they
know.
got to
It's so
follow the glamping
fulfilling.
guy, because the glamping guy paves the way. That's what they got to do. Well, explain your glamping sites. What do you have? You said you have 2 huts. What else do you got going on? You
Mhm.
have tents and things like that. Go ahead and explain your layout.
Yeah, so we built the 2 huts, and they're basically like 10 by 12-ish wooden huts with a door and windows. So they're fully enclosed and insulated.
Okay.
So I've slept there when it's 28 degrees outside. And as long as I had my dog and a good sleeping bag, I was totally comfortable in there.
Mhm.
But it's got a little deck. So the 2 huts, and then there's a deck that's shared between the 2 huts, and have, of course, regular beds, soft memory foam beds inside them. And so it's very snuggly. Um, so there's that, and it's right on the river. So you wake up, you open your door, there's the river. It's just such a wonderful sound with the birds and the water going over the rocks, and oh, it's so peaceful. And so this past summer, I added two glamping tents that I got from um, um, Tent Masters at the
Oh,
glamping show.
okay.
They're a company out of Knoxville, and oh, the tents are such good quality, just beautiful.
Is it
And
safari tents? Safari
they're
tents.
safari tents, but they have, I'm in the Pacific Northwest, so we need some barrier as well for the outside. So it's safari tents. I built a deck to put them on, and then it has I forget what do you call
Like
that when it's,
a rainfly, like
yeah,
over the, yeah, yes.
yeah,
There's
the
space
rain
between
fly.
the,
That's
yeah, that's big. That's huge.
Yeah, it's there is a space between the canvas and the rainfly, and then it's
Mhm.
totally waterproof. And it also extends over the deck. So there's a place you can sit on the deck that's not in the tent and still stay out of the rain if it
Yep,
starts raining.
yep,
So
got it.
I've slept in it in the rain, and it just sounds awesome. So then again, you unzip it, there's the river and there's the rainstorm, and you're sitting on the deck and the rainstorm is happening, and it's glorious.
So two huts, two tent master tents. What else do you have?
Hmm. An Airstream
Oh, okay.
and the farmhouse and the cottage. Um, I guess that's all for sleeping.
Okay,
Yeah,
so an Airstream, a farmhouse, and a cottage. So you have two, four, five, six, seven venues.
well, I every time I count, I get a
Or
different number.
the
Okay, let me
cottage
think
is
about
not
this.
counted.
So
Okay.
the glamping huts, two of those, glamping tents, two of those, the farmhouse, the cottage, the Airstream. Yeah, I think you counted
That's
right.
seven. All right,
Yeah,
seven.
seven.
And is that so? That's not quite bringing you enough revenue to quit your job, or
Oh,
is it
and if you
just like
count this is one of them. It's not on Glacier Rock Wellness Ranch, but I also have my home, this home on Airbnb because I don't live here.
and this
This
is in
is
Tennessee. This is
this
like
is
a
in
Airbnb.
Tennessee.
Okay, okay. And you
Yeah,
said you don't have it on Airbnb? You
I
don't
have
rent
this
it?
place on Airbnb.
Okay, you do. You do. So that's
Hmm.
a rental, a long-term rental that you or a long distance rental
Long
that you
distance, short
manage.
term. Yeah.
Where do you work? Do you work? Are you a traveling nurse or are you a
Oh
traveling
no,
physician?
I'm a physician in Washington. I
Okay.
have a license in Tennessee, but
Okay.
I don't work in Tennessee currently.
Okay. You
So
just escaped to Tennessee for your own wellness and
I came to check on my
okay.
house
Oh, cool, cool, cool.
because the
That's what I
leaves
thought. I
are
thought
changing.
you're in Washington full time, and
I
this is
work and live in Washington. Yeah.
okay, 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 wonderful. That's quite a bit. I mean, you've just seven venues out in the wilderness, and you're doing some events, or it sounds like you're trying to move toward doing events and making that a revenue stream. Do you feel like you're close to making that that jump into full time accommodations or full time outdoor hospitality?
I do. I think it would be profitable by now if I hadn't had a few disasters.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, starting and running a glamping operation, your listeners need to know, doesn't come without adversity, right?
Hmm. Hmm. Right, right.
Yeah, so a couple of things that I had. Number one was I hired a contractor that ended up just being a criminal.
Mm,
$40,000 later, I discovered that I couldn't even
wow,
try to get the
wow.
money back after he had torn everything apart and
Do you want
didn't
to go
fix
give me
anything.
some you want to give my listeners some details so that they kind of keep a watch out of that?
Well, I would say just check them out before you hire them. And I normally would have done that, but this guy came recommended by a fellow physician. But I learned later that she didn't really know him. She just knew him because he went to high school with her husband.
Mm,
And so she didn't know about his background criminal record and all of
mm, wow.
his badness. And she was very apologetic after I lost $40,000 paying him to
Mm,
do things, but he just kept ripping things out and ripping things out. And I would say, no, you need to finish this project before you start ripping out the next room.
mm,
And so he
mm,
just kept ripping things out. And then, oh, I need 5,000 more. I need 5,000 more. I need 5,000 more. And by the time I got 40,000 deep in it and everything's ripped out and he hasn't fixed anything, I started figuring out like, you're not going to fix anything, are you?
Oh,
Get
that
out of
sounds
here.
awful.
No, it was awful. It was so disheartening because the promises that he was making sounded so
Mhm,
realistic and I was so excited and my heart was in it so deeply. I was so
mm,
excited and he was like, "Oh yeah, we're going to have it done by Thanksgiving." Okay, so I had it set. Oh, okay, well, a little bit more. Okay, now it's going to be done by Christmas, I promise. No, we weren't
mm,
even close. What about, can you just have it done by my birthday? That was in January. And once my
mm.
birthday got there and came and went, and things were just more ripped out than ever, I was like, I don't
Jeez.
think, I don't
Sounds like a
think you're,
bad dating
I
relationship.
don't
Your
think
heart
you're
was
for
more into it
real.
than it should have been.
Yeah, yeah. I was just so excited about
Uh-huh.
what we were going, what he was promising for the
Okay.
house.
Yeah.
And once I
Just didn't
figured it
work.
out, and then I contacted a lawyer,
Okay.
and you know, my daughter looked him up online, and I realized like he has nothing. And my lawyer is
No.
like, "Well, I'll take the case. You have a case, obviously, but if this guy has nothing and a criminal record, you're not going to recover anything, and then you're going to have all these legal fees on top of your loss that you already
Wow.
have. Do you really want to
Yeah.
do this?" So it
Cut
was
your
just a
losses
loss.
and
Yeah,
go.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
and that's what I did. And so that was what, 20. Let me see. I made some notes because I was like, I know I won't remember this. That was in 2022.
Okay.
And so it would have been, you know, $40,000 more profitable because that's cash I put into it that I was working extra shifts to.
Wow. I can't say I've never, well, I do everything myself, honestly.
Yeah, see,
So,
I can't swing a hammer.
or a
Yeah,
relative. So if
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
know their background when my own
I know.
kids, I know their
I
backgrounds.
know.
I know
I
what you've
know,
done.
I know.
So,
So, and my
yeah.
husband, you know, he's not a carpenter kind of guy. He
Hmm.
works the same profession that I do, and so he couldn't
Okay.
do those things. And then in 2023, I had an even bigger loss. You know about this one when my barn burned down.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was a 16 stall barn that was literally built probably in the 60s out of Douglas fir this thick. And it was just everyone in the community. It was just an icon in the community because it was so
Mm.
old. Everyone had been there and ridden horses there and they had good
That's a
memories
10,000
there. And
square foot arena.
no, 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 no. The 10,000 square
No?
foot arena is still there. The barn, it was a
The barn.
16 stall barn. It was probably like 60 by 80. I don't know. I'm just roughly guessing how big it was, but
Wow.
it was pretty big. And the problem was it was filled with like $55,000 worth of stuff because
Oh, okay.
I just bought a dome, you know, the beautiful, it
Oh,
was like,
really?
yeah, from Pacific Domes. It was like a $12,000 dome that I'd waited
Nice.
years to buy, and I was excited about that. So that project was in there along with all the lumber for the decking for it, and two
Yeah, that
riding
sounds heavy. Is
lawnmowers
any
and
of it covered by
ladders. And
insurance? Did you have insurance in the barn? Oh man.
I paid
Oh,
insurance. I thought I was insured. That's my
uh,
message to the listeners. Look at the fine
read,
print
yeah,
on your insurance
read the
because you
policy.
might think you're covered and you might not be covered as much as
Yeah,
you think.
yeah.
The insurance gave me $17,000. That didn't even